Video by the byte. Interesting topic to start out today. But let me first introduce a little formal, more so the introductions. Again, this is an informal session. If you got questions, please raise your hand. I'll call on you. I just want this to be dynamic, interactive, and hopefully you'll get something out of it that you can take back with you, back to your progressive facilities. Now, Mr. Jacobson, he's the Director of Broadcast Engineering for QVC. He's been there for a couple of years in that role, and before that, he was VP of Client Development for AnyStream. Prior to that, Bruce spent over a decade at Comcast Cablevision in various roles building a large infrastructure and support for the cable TV, high-speed data, and IP voice business. He has a BS degree in electrical engineering from University of Pennsylvania, MS in management, MS in technology, and policy from Massachusetts Institute of Technology. So, on also with the panel here, we've got Slava Frater. Mr. Frater's the VP for the Americas unit at NewTek, including US, Canada, and Latin America and the Caribbean area. He joined NewTek in 2000. Over the years, Slava held various positions at NewTek. His latest role was Senior Director for North America. Slava was promoted to his current role in 2008, where he holds an electrical engineering degree from Riga Technical University and Latvia?
Latvia, yes.
It's not rehearsed. Latvia, and an MBA in International Business and Finance from the University of Connecticut. As far as the agenda, Bruce is going to give his presentation, then we'll turn it over to Slava for his, then we'll start into some questions and answers. We'll take it from there. Bruce?
Great. Thank you very much, O'Brien, and thank you, Paul, for the opportunity to speak today. As O'Brien said, I'm Bruce Jacobson. I'm the Director of Broadcast Engineering for QVC. And my comments will be brief today. I think we very much want to stimulate dialogue during the question and answer period. But I think QVC is a great example, a great case study to talk about some of the issues as we think about video by the byte. So let me introduce you to QVC and give you some insight into who we are and how we're different from most traditional broadcasters. We're one of the largest electronic retailers in the world. We have 5 different geographies. The US is by far the biggest, but we have 3 European geographies. There's a QVC UK, QVC Italy, which we launched just about a year ago, and then QVC Germany. We also have QVC Japan, our first Asian geography. Together, they represent about $7.5 billion worth of revenue. And each operation stands more or less alone from a marketing, from an engineering, really from an operations standpoint. The one thing that they do share is the QVC method of selling merchandise. And so we think there's a secret sauce, and we try to spread that everywhere. We think that the business model and the way we implement it is so powerful that you'll see expansion of QVC across a lot of other geographies. The whole push for international expansion is increasing. And so, although there's one Asian geography today, there will be others going forward. We'll expand into South America, and we'll continue to expand in Italy. And then the idea also is to just grow the US business, and I'll talk more about how we intend to do that. Right now, and I'll speak almost exclusively about the US business going forward, we broadcast 3 different broadcast streams out of Westchester, Pennsylvania. There's a HD stream, a digital SD stream, and an analog stream. And we have 4 different IP streams that leave Westchester, basically because of the growth of mobile devices. So we've got a IP stream for the QVC.com website, and then the other 3 streams are for Android mobile devices, for the iPad and the iPod. And I've been with QVC coming up on 3 years. When I got there, we really only had one stream. That was the analog broadcast stream. And just in the 3 years I've been there, we've seen a growth to 7 streams, and that growth will increase over time as the number of mobile devices increase, the way consumers want to consume our content. We're going to meet them and find ways to deliver video streams any way they want to consume our content. Particularly we talked a little bit about just adaptive bitrate technology. For every one of those IP streams, you could have as many as 5 or 6 separate streams, to enable adaptive bitrate. And so, just the number of streams leaving Westchester is going to increase, and therefore the bandwidth that has to leave Westchester has to increase as well, and that's going to be a huge challenge for us. The end user experience is, for the most part, live streaming and VOD. So on every one of those, so the linear broadcast streams are exactly that. They're linear, but all the IP streams support both live streaming and VOD as well. So on any given mobile device, we allow the end user to be able to look at particular products and look at the cell, what we call the 6-minute broadcast cell of that particular product, and enable an end user to watch that cell. What we found is that when end users do watch video of a particular product, the conversion rate more than doubles. And so we're very interested in trying to get end users to watch specific product cells, because they buy a lot more stuff when they watch that video. To amplify something that Richard said in his presentation, we find that the live show, the TV show, really is the engine for everything we do. And so, at QVC, we are able to measure really by the minute how much revenue we're generating, and that's a metric that we watch very, very closely. It influences the way the producers put the show together, and whether they allow a product to remain on the air or whether they take it off early. So we have this metric called dollars per minute, and it's watched very, very closely. The interesting thing is we had a power outage. In the middle of the night, we were doing some work on a transformer, and unfortunately, we knocked the entire building off the air. We went black for about 5 minutes. Now, it was 2 a.m. It was a planned maintenance, and what wasn't planned was knocking ourselves off the air. But that said, for that time of day, we should have generated something like $100,000, several $1,000s per minute, and it should have been a combination of QVC sales coming in from QVC.com and sales coming in on mobile devices. And what we found is that the sales for that hour were really only about several $1,000s, as opposed to $100,000 or $200,000. And so, although the folks at QVC.com, increasingly like to think that they're generating a third of the revenue for QVC, when the show went dark, sales also basically went to zero. And so it really is the live show that generates all the interest in sales. But that said, these other devices, they're ordering devices, and so people watch the show, and then rather than call the 800 number, they order online or order through a mobile device. So it's a fascinating experiment, and one that we could prove because of that power outage. So let me just tell you about some of the technology that allows us to support all the different mobile devices, and going forward, all the new ways of distributing content. QVC recently deployed a media asset management platform, and it's essentially allowed us to automate the workflow from start to finish. Now, QVC is live 24/7, so we create a lot of content. We're live all the time. That said, there is a lot of pre-produced content that goes into the live show. So we do product demonstrations. Some products just are demonstrated better outside the studio. You see how a person uses a bicycle or uses a whatever it is. It works better than demonstrating it in the studio. So that stuff is pre-produced. We also have our own promotions. They're commercials for future shows. And then we have what we call full motion video shots, close-up shots of certain products, like jewelry works very well as a close-up shot. And we record that ahead of time and then integrate it into the live show. So if you look at all that pre-produced content and then our desire to record every minute of the live show so it can be repurposed later, you just have a huge need for a very large storage infrastructure and the ability to catalog all that content so that you can find it later when you want to repurpose it. So we've built a very large system. It's basically one of the only things I've worked on since I've been at QVC, and now it's in production, and we've got this huge 1.6 petabytes of storage library that'll last us probably about 3 years at the current rate of consumption. So that said, we use a couple different ways to reach our customers. Globecomm is our distributor of all the broadcast content streams. And then Akamai we use to distribute the IP streams over their CDN. And later we'll talk about how those two platforms converge or don't converge over time, and love to get some discussion about that going. Here's an example of what the application looks like on an iPhone. One of the things that's interesting about this is, so you're able to watch the live show streaming to the iPhone with a few second delay. You have the L graphic up there. That's a hallmark of QVC, and all the other home shopping channels have copied that look. And over time we hope to change that to differentiate ourselves. But this is one look, and what I've titled this slide, all these IP streams do have different format requirements. If you're running on an iPhone, can't run Flash. On the QVC website, where it's a Flash-based video stream. So immediately we have to jump through all kinds of hoops to differentiate those two streams. If you look at the iPad, you can certainly watch the video stream on the full screen. But what we find that people like to do is also take advantage of other features we can add to the application. So you'll see things like items recently on air, a special promotion that we're running every day. The ability to be able to differentiate per platform is huge and important, and will only continue over time. So the challenge for us is how to reuse all the content, either in the MAM or live, and do it in a way where we don't have to do one-off designs to support every platform. And that is the huge challenge for us at QVC. So those are the thoughts I want to leave you with. And with that, I'll turn it over to Slava.
Hit the next one. Thank you, Bruce. Here you go.
Thank you, I think it was a very interesting presentation leading me to mine. Brian, Paul, thank you very much for inviting me. I figured if we do this a few more times, we'll get the word Latvia straight.
Absolutely.
As Brian said, my name is Slava Frater, and I'm here for NewTek. Maybe a few words about the company. NewTek is a technology company, and we're in business of satellite communications. And over the last 26 years, our main goal was to design products and solutions for broadcast data and data markets, and recently stepped into the broadband systems. So broadcast market historically is where NewTek started. So this is where we build our expertise, and for the last many years, we cater to the needs of that market. And in the next few minutes, I would like to maybe give you our perspective of how we see that broadcast market evolving and what we do specifically as a technology company to address those needs. And if we look at the broadcast environment today, then this is what we see, okay? And probably I don't need to tell you much, but from our point of view, we see that the broadcast margins are getting squeezed. On one hand, the revenue that is coming, the advertising dollars are decreasing, and we saw specifically what's been happening in the last few years. So broadcasters are constantly in the search for more creative ways of monetizing the content and resell it over multiple platforms and multiple devices. That being said, the consumer is also driving that demand. They're not satisfied, no longer satisfied with just getting a content. So they're looking to get very specific content, and the increase for content distributed in HD and in some cases 3D is also increasing, which on the hand puts significant pressure on the infrastructure that need to support that. Managing multiple platforms and building solutions to handle multiple platforms certainly puts significant pressure, and broadcasters have multiple ways of doing that. They can build those platforms themselves, but that of course will have a huge impact on CapEx. Or they can go to somebody like Globecomm and have them manage it. In any case, the cost pressure is still increasing. Another piece of interesting information came from a research firm, Davencroft. It's the research organization, global research organization, that specializes in analyzing broadcast market. It was interesting, 2 years ago, Brian hosted a panel at IBC, and similar results were shown. So over the last 3 years, since 2008 up until today, the trends that they have observed are very consistent. And at the top of the list, it's the multi-platform content delivery. Basically what we said, delivering the same content over multiple platforms to increase their revenue streams. Second at the top of the list is HDTV conversion. I mean, that is obviously a trend, and it continues to be a trend. But there are several other trends that have emerged, and that is the migration to file-based and tapeless environment. So obviously, the optimizing the operations are also one of the pains that the broadcasters are facing. IP networking and content delivery over IP. And it's another interesting case. Video on demand and ability to have more interactive way of communicating with the end users. All these things indicate that IP is getting a strong grip on broadcast market, and it's definitely going to stay, and it's definitely going to take over the market by force. And any technology company that is in business of creating solutions is constantly looking and observing on what's going on. And NewTek is being at the top of the game. We always try to analyze and come up with the solutions that would be addressing those pains. I see a relationship between the broadcast market and the technology solution providers are always bidirectional. On one hand, the broadcasters are driving the need for what needs to be done, and technology company always creates the possibility to make certain things happen. So looking at the emerging trends, we came up with a solution. It's called Dual Flow, which is the NewTek technology that allows broadcast applications in contribution and distribution, DSNG, to migrate from a traditional legacy environment to an IP-based network at their own pace. Now, you will see what the own pace means. We know that for any solution to be successful, it has to have certain key elements. Being flexible, being transparent, as much as we all want to have just one product on the market, we all know that interoperability is the key. So in our case, the solution is based on the open standard technology, DVB-S2. So it has the ability to interface with different products and different hardware in the market. It has to increase flexibility, it has to increase productivity. It needs to answer all the needs that the typical customer will have. When I said at own pace, and this is what I mean, and I'm actually glad that the word legacy came up in the previous presentation. We all know that this is something we have to deal with. The legacy infrastructure, all ASI based, dominates the market today. And we know that broadcasters are also very conservative people because of the millions of dollars, maybe billions of dollars at stake. So any wrong move can have a serious impact on operations. So for us, to give the comfort of transition is the key, and the IP connectivity is the step that a solution like dual flow can do. Slow migration of the ASI based to the IP with the same product, with the same platform. This is what IP connectivity does. IP transport is the next step that would allow you to combine the legacy ASI signal with a new IP, and it could be video over IP, transport stream over IP, or encapsulated data in one stream with the same platform. And the last step would be IP interactivity, adding interactive element, adding interactive component in the solution to make it more transparent and more beneficial. So 3 ways: revolutionary, going from traditional to IP interactivity, or evolutionary, multiple steps, all covered. So flexibility of our platform and the greater benefit is that you're able to combine your traditional TV signal with IP services. The same platform, regardless of what encoding solution you will be using in front, will be able to handle that. Combination of ASI and IP on the same stream, on the same carrier, gives the advantage of saturating the transponder, or much better use of space segment, which is the major cost element in this solution. Additionally, if you look at how the transmission is done today, it's typically live. If you have a remote crew, it could be SNG van, or it could be fixed station. Today, all the content is distributed live. Ability to convert it to IP and adding, for example, video file server and converting it from the live to file-based workflow, gives you a benefit of scheduling your transmission and maybe utilizing space segment at lower cost, or maybe scheduling a transmission off-peak hours. Again, in any case, it gives you flexibility of scheduling your transmission and taking advantages of the circumstances and the lower rate. This would be one way, and the key benefit is that the same platform is capable of handling transition and legacy and transition. Adding interactivity has additional benefits. First, again, we talked about combining legacy ASI and IP on the same platform, but it also gives the remote crew ability to work more independent, ability to transfer data files, ability of the crew to have constant access to the internet without relying on ground infrastructure is the key. Adding text files, transferring purely data content in off-peak hours, or using the same space segment is another benefit. Now, all of us who are involved in satellite communication know that the satellite has a delay. And if you use traditional infrastructure with ASI, there's very little you can do. Converting to IP and adding things like IP acceleration will enable them to deliver content more rapidly and more reliably, and increase overall user experience. And got messed up a little bit. But just to not to go into too much technical discussion, but just a diagram that describes how it's all done. Again, it's all based on the VBS2 standard with the multi-stream in the core. The product has ability to handle multiple streams, so adding additional stream is can be done very seamlessly. Placed all in the VBS2 large frames and sent out. So the interoperability between the remote side and the broadcast center is definitely there. But the key feature, the key element of that solution is that we do not touch the MPEG content. So any content that is sent over the satellite link, we preserve the originality, whether it's MPEG 2, MPEG 4, or just different type of content can be transmitted without modification. So that goes into the ability to handle multiple signals and universality of the platform. And basically what I said earlier, dual flow is just one of the solutions that we offer to address the needs of broadcast market. Over the years, we've built substantial experience and we have worked on many different verticals. So if you look at the product portfolio, I mean, that gives you an idea of what else we can offer to address the pains and address the needs. So if you have your challenges, if you have your needs, talk to us or come and talk to Globecomm as an end-to-end solution provider. That was it.
Thanks, Slava. Before we get into our general panel discussion, does anybody have any questions?
Maybe just one quick question. What trends are you seeing in kind of the auto-deploy, auto-access arena, which gets around, if you will, a high-qualified technical person to be at the remote site, so that there's a little bit of multitask that can be done? Where are you seeing those trends going?
Is this working? Well, auto-deployable is definitely, broadcaster needs to cover various events, around the world. It was very interesting that we typically, when we talk about dual flow, we present a case with one of our Belgian broadcaster who had a task of covering a Tour de France. So they had to deploy multiple cameras in various stages of the tour, and it's typically in the places where there's no connectivity of any kind. So the company deployed dual flow as a solution, and they were able to not only get access. The crew was not only able to get access to to internet in offline hours, but they were also able to connect multiple cameras and have a much better coverage of the event compared to the traditional solutions. Also, additional information that they were able to provide also was greatly appreciated by the users, because they could send text files before the event, before the next stage. So solutions like this answer very well the needs for having remote crew working independently and much more efficiently, and also conversion into IP with the file-based workflow. So we see this as a way to answer that.
Thank you.
Thanks, Slava. In hearing both our keynote and with the two decks that we've just seen, I remember back about 15 years ago at NAB, the mantra for that session at NAB was called convergence. No one knew what the heck convergent meant. What is it? Is it a company? Is it a workflow? What is it? And it's interesting that only till today, that we're actually understanding what the cloud is. What is this convergence? The flipping, the transcoding, and it's actually coming to full circle, which. In broadcasting, it typically takes that big wheel a few years to turn, and I think we're finally there. We're seeing a lot of interesting trends. One of the things that I found very interesting when Bruce and I we were chatting beforehand, we're broadcasters, but QVC's take, you're not a broadcaster. Can you explain that a little bit?
Sure. Our senior management all have retail backgrounds, and they think of us as in the same category as Nordstrom and Saks and even Walmart to some degree. And so, for them, that's who we compete with, and that's the mindset. And they come to the engineering team to say, how can you get our content in as many different places as possible, and don't tell us to build a store. We want it. We want video delivered wherever our consumer wants to see it. And so, it's an interesting challenge for the technical team to meet the needs of the senior management team that really does just think in terms of number of packages shipped and revenue, as I explained earlier, dollars per minute. That is our challenge.
Wow. So thinking of QVC as a retailer versus broadcaster, but yet you have to deliver that program effectively and efficiently through an IP stream or over the air or DTH, wherever your end consumer is.
Yes, that's correct.
Yeah. In talking about this, and actually I've got my phone out and I see you've got yours out. We've got, yes, okay, they're smartphones, right? But one's better than the other one. Did I say that? Somebody's gonna strike lightning on me right now. But they're two total different platforms. And I remember back when color television came around, and everybody said, "You're nuts. It's not gonna. It's just a fad." Like we talk about 3D happening now. It's just a fad. But they're two complete platforms. What do you have to? And we were talking about coding for these multiple platforms. What's your take, and how do you work? To provide that again, talking about reliable and efficient stream to those multi-platforms. What's your process behind the scenes on that?
Sure. So each of these devices requires us to generate a unique IP stream, in a different format. So I talked about Flash versus
Right.
H.264 for an Android device. That forces us to build a very large transcoding farm in